Hello, my name is Jason Alexander from IM Education, and I am here to teach you all about reading a customer account statement from your child's Early Learning Center. At the top of your statement, you will see summary information. For this statement, we have only one child enrolled in a kindergarten program who is receiving the government's 2024 Free Kindy Scheme. Now let's break it down into a bit more detail. At the top of your statement, you will see First we have session fee. This is the total cost of fees without any subsidies being applied. Next is discount. This is the total amount of discounts that have been applied, including the free kindy scheme. CCS. This is the total amount of childcare subsidy that has been applied to your fees. ACCS. This is the total amount of additional childcare subsidy that has been applied to your fees. And finally, GAP. This is the out-of-pocket amount that you have paid. Next comes the account transaction page. This is the total cost of fees without any subsidies being applied. Let's break it down by moving from left to right. This is the total amount of discounts that have been applied in a 9-hour session, including the free kindy scheme. The total fee for this session is $139. This is the total amount of childcare subsidy. There is a discount applied to this child's account because they are eligible for free kindy, which applies to 2 days of the week. Stay tuned. We will go into the free kindy calculations on the next slide. CCS is the dollar amount that is being covered with the childcare subsidy, and debit is how much you have to pay for each session. Now time to move on to kindy funding. Let's take the example of the child before. Please note this process will not give us an exact dollar amount, but we will be very close. $139 for a 9-hour session. That means it's $15.44 per hour. Now for the 7.5 hours of free kindy that we get, it comes to $115.80 being covered. That leaves us $23.20 left, which is not covered under the free kindy scheme. With this amount that's remaining, we now have to apply CCS to it. For this child, they have a percentage of 72.62. But one thing we can't forget is the 5% withholding by Centrelink. Rule of thumb here is to take away 5% off your CCS total to cover for the withhold percentage. Now back to applying the percentage. This comes to $15.69 that is being paid by CCS. $23.20 take away $15.69, that leaves us with $7.51. If we think back to our statement summary, the gap fee for this child on the free kindy days is $8.37. Now, just like I said, it's not the exact dollar amount, but it's given us a close idea of what we should expect. Now, sometimes the percentages just do not add up. Let's use some imaginary numbers to see how the math just doesn't seem to be mathing. Going back to our $139 9-hour session, $15.44 per hour. At 90% CCS, we would be expecting to pay about $13.90. Simple, right? Well, not quite. There are a few other things that we need to look at first. First, we need to consider the CCS withholding percent that is applied to our total. 5% is the typical amount. Then we have that $15.44 per hour. CCS isn't a fan of this number and has capped the per hour rate for CCS to $14.29. This means that the CCS percentage will cover for a total of $128.61 of the $139 total per day. Now that $10.39 left over, that is automatically added to your gap fee. Now we know some more variables. Let's move on to how it all comes together. Let's start with that $139. When we look at what CCS will cover with its CCS per hour cap, it's more like $128.61. Let's lock that in. Now 90% CCS is not the total amount. We need to take out the 5% withholding, so it's going to be 85% that we work off. This gives us $19.29 left to pay. But we can't forget that $10.39 from the CCS cap that is automatically brought over. So the total comes to $29.68 to pay for this one day, a difference of $15.78 from the first calculation to this. Now let's look at siblings, both in care at the same center. Everything on this page is the same as the individual child statement. There's only one difference, 2 lines of amounts instead of 1. When it comes to siblings, there is an extra bonus given by Centrelink that impacts the percentage and the dollar amount provided by CCS. The child on the left, that's our kindy child, where we have free kindy calculations taking place along with typical days. And then on the right, we have the younger sibling who has a larger CCS percentage, so the gap fee each day is much lower. CCS percentage for a sibling begins at 95% and reduces in amount based on the income of your family. Now this family uses a 10-hour session booking at $141. That means their hourly rate is $14.10. See on the next page as to why this is important. Back to figuring out some percentages. Because the dollar amount per hour is below the CCS cap, families who use this 10-hour session have the entire $141 impacted by their CCS percentage. Now minus that 5% withholding, a family with 90% CCS using the $141 10-hour session would be out of pocket $21.15. I hope you found this video helpful in understanding more about your child's early learning customer account statement. Do you have more questions about the world of early learning, parenting, or education? Be sure to reach out to us on socials. Be sure to comment like, below, subscribe, and ring the notification bell and continue the conversation. Never miss out on tips and tricks about the world of early learning, parenting, and education with IM Education.